Union County Improvement Authority.
Gentlemen, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear testimony about you recording this matter the whole truth and about Please state your full name.
Bernard Lenihan, Vice President, Finance, Union County College.
Dennis and Wright in W County.
Mark Frank, Union County Improvement Authority.
John Beck, Farm Council. Jonathan Williams, General Counsel, Union County.
Before we get into the merits of the application, or hear from the applicants, I do want to clarify. There were some comments in the newspapers from the executive director of the authority that comments I had made at the last meeting were political in nature, and I want to assure you that's not the case. I continue to believe that with the structure of executive directors, when my concerns are compounded by the reality that when that particular person was a member of this board, she came to 2 of 28 regular ethics meetings, and only 7 of 28 regular board meetings. She came to less than 25% of the meetings, yet she cashed 100% of her paycheck. I don't know how many people can get away with that with their jobs. I know nobody in my office will. So that raised questions to me, not only with the structure of the contract there in and of itself, but also how it's being applied by the person who fills that seat. And upon further review, we reviewed 3 audits for the authority, and in none of those audits was the section on personnel filled out at all. There was no indication that there was appropriate tracking of vacation or sick time. When we asked for how vacation and sick time is tracked in the authority, we found that there were a period of years where it appears that there was no vacation taken by the authority executive director, which seems odd. It also came to our attention that in the current year, despite there being no bank of vacation time available to the executive director, there was a payment made to her in early February or mid-February for, I believe, 10 vacation days, which would not have accrued yet. So it appears like she may have been paid vacation time that hadn't accrued. And eventually she'll accrue them, I'm sure, but I don't know how many people get that ability. So I continue to believe on the merits and notwithstanding any political differences, I've never met the authority executive director, that compensation package is unreasonable. Subsequent to that meeting, we also received a transcript of a jury trial for a project I believe called the Southwoods Project. That particular project was ended in, I guess you can only say disastrously. It may be the only one of the projects that the authority handled that were poor, but there was an awful lot of money spent on professionals and soft costs for that project, which never came to completion. It was mired in litigation. So there are real questions about what the fees that are paid to the authority, whether they're ultimately reasonable or not. And I would argue that they are not. But I needed to set that record clear because in the past, this board has actually threatened and authorized the issuance of subpoenas to Republican mayors who we thought were following the law. And I think earlier in this meeting, we were arguing about some Republican neighborhoods about whether what they were doing was appropriate or not. And partisan politics don't play a part here. And I want to make that comment. I want to make it on the record here in this meeting and not through the media like some others were doing. But so with that, if there's somebody who wants to talk about this project, I know last time you were here, you were prepared to go through some maps of what the project itself looks like and the merits of it. maybe walk through what some of the costs of this project are. We'd be glad to hear about that as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I may briefly respond to the comments that you just made on behalf of the Improvement Authority and the Improvement Authority Board. I'd like to make it clear that these comments are coming from me as General Counsel to that board. Subsequent to the last board meeting, I did forward a letter to Ms. McNamara and distributed it to you and other members of the board, trying to address some of the issues that you had raised during the course of the last board meeting. That letter is dated April the 16th, 2013, and lays out a long list of the significant projects that the authority has completed in the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars of projects that were completed under budget and ahead of schedule. With respect to that letter, I would ask that it be made part of the record of this application, and I won't belabor the point with further content of that letter. I also note that you did respond and comment on that letter by your letter dated April the 18th, 2013, wherein you indicated that the projects of the authority were duly noted and, in all fairness, continued to raise some of the questions that you just referenced today. With respect to the record of the authority, its projects, and the Improvement Authority's executive director, I should also note for the record that by resolution of the authority dated last Friday, the executive director has tendered her resignation to the authority, and the authority is willing to accept that resignation effective August 1st of this year. With respect to many of the records that you had requested regarding the use of vacation time, the compensation for vacation time, and further, more detailed description of the project, I believe that we have provided you with all of the records that were requested, with the exception of some additional information that you're looking for regarding the use of sick time by the employees of the authority. As I indicated on a conference call yesterday, with respect to the records about the sick time, Mr. Mark Brink is here today, and he will be looking for those records, and will be more than happy to provide them in order to complete all of the records which we produce at your request. With respect to the compensation for sick time upon retirement from the authority, Ms. DeFilippo, while possessed of certain contractual rights, has indicated to my client, the board, that she intends to go by county and state policy with regard to that sick time, and while she has accumulated sick time in excess of 200 days, compensated only to the extent of $10,000, which is in accordance with the newly adopted state law, which would not ordinarily apply to her, as well as county policy for all of its other employees. With respect to the Southwood Avenue redevelopment project, it was good of you to note that it is one of the few projects of the authority that terminated or has concluded in litigation because of a failed developer. Those matters are on appeal, the litigation continues. But I should note that the Superior Court in that matter ruled that the developer in question, who went into default with the authority and the city's project for Southwood Avenue's redevelopment, the Superior Court judge has ruled that that developer was so inexperienced that under applicable state law could not be compensated for lost profits, no matter what the result of the case. So that matter continues. We are here today, having said all of that, we are here today to emphasize and stress the positive attributes of the financing and the college building project upon which this application was predicated. Mr. Linehan is here with diagrams to give the board members more information about the nature of the project and to also answer any questions. We have Dennis Enright, Mr. Kudak, and I would be happy to address questions about the breakdown on the financing, although we did provide you with more additional information about that between the date of the last meeting and today. Having said that, if there are any questions from the board, I'd be prepared to address them at this time.
No, I'm anxious to hear about the project.
Mr. Linehan?
Thank you. Union County College is one of the 19 community colleges within the state. And we educate approximately 13,000 students annually, about half of those full-time and half of those part-time. In addition, we educate countless numbers through our non-credit programs, including our workforce development programs as they go through. We have 4 campuses. The main campus is in Cranford at 1033 Springfield Avenue. I want to start with an overview of the campus so you have a sense of who we are. Springfield Avenue is right over here, and the campus goes back this way. We have recently completed a project that reformed all of the roads around here to take major traffic off of Springfield Avenue. In this particular project, it initially was scheduled to go right over here, over parking lot 4. This is Princeton Road right here. In informal discussions with the neighbors, we determined that that was not the ideal place. So we have what we call a peace garden right here that is in among the library and what we call the Humanities Building and the Mohegan Building. And it incorporates not only that space, but reconstruction of what is now our counseling center here and portions of the classrooms here. The purpose of the building is for better student services. Right now, since this building was constructed in most parts of it were constructed in the 50s and 60s, student services is spread throughout the complex. And it is not very, very easy for students to get service, and that's a key part of retention when it comes to the student area. We seek to consolidate it all completely here. We also, on the top floor, because it's 2 floors, seek to go through with new classrooms and some new space for faculty offices. To orient you, this is the project that we were talking about here. This is the first floor. This is an existing piece of it that is going to be reconfigured. And then this is an existing piece that will be reconfigured. And we will have a complete student service from entry and the initial registration, recruitment, all the way through career counseling, all in this one area. We do a significant amount of advising, student advising, and student counseling, and it will be all done through here. It will be a 36,000 square foot building, approximately 18 plus 7, 25,000 new and 11,000, if I recall the numbers right, renovation. This would be the second floor. And that's probably a brief discussion. I'd be glad to be more specific.
And I know we got some cost estimates that were sent in earlier this week, and it was also Netta Architects who have developed that as well.
Correct.
And they're on, Netta Architects is on a retainer with the college? Or?
No, with the Union County Improvement.
Okay.
We had signed an interlocal agreement with them, with the authority 2 years ago for the construction of this.
Anybody else have questions on the project itself? No? Is there anybody here from the public who wanted to testify? Before we get there, is there anything else anybody up at the table wants to say?
I would just notice the application is not to exceed 20 billion based, we have a final number of time. Architects indication now, approximately 14.1, so I would suggest that you amend the application to not to exceed 15 million is sufficient. Of course, there are certain fees, especially based on the issuance size of the equipment, and reduce along with the issuance itself.
Are there any other changes to the application?
The conference call they just said they were indicating they put a basically placeholder number in for an underwriters council not to exceed 25, and that would be reduced to 10,000.
We'll take, why don't you guys step back for a minute or two, and then we'll let the folks in the public